Yeah, welcome back. It's still the Friday edition of New Dawn with ABIODUN and Akim Adetunde. It's the discussion segment of the program now, and of course, in our continuation of extracting the achievements of this present administration as they continue to mark the third year anniversary in office. Don't forget, by May 29, the government led by President DAPO ABIODUN will be 3 in office, and you've seen various officials of the government come on air to come and talk about the achievements in their various sectors. It's not going to be different this morning, as we have in the studio, as continue to look at the third year anniversary of Governor DAPO ABIODUN-led administration, the Secretary to the State Government here in Ogun State, Mr. Tokunbo Talabi. Mr. Tokunbo Talabi, you're welcome to the program this morning.
Good morning, Hakim. How are you today?
And of course, let me say congratulations on the victories at the primary yesterday.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And then it's not totally over here because there will also be National Assembly.
My congratulations was for the governor.
For the governor.
Personalized to the governor.
Okay, welcome to the program, SSG. We'd like to start by asking you, when this administration set out, 3 years ago, you had a vision, you had a mission. Now, will you say that, 3 years down the line, you've significantly achieved what you set out to do?
Yeah, well, let me say good morning once again. It's good to be here. Yes, I think to a very large extent. Okay, we at the onset, His Excellency Prince DAPO ABIODUN MFR had a team of people during the transition to do a program to extract the states, and they came up with a blueprint of what somebody with good government or a good government should be doing. After that, then he selectively picked his team to drive that vision, and then looked at what, once he took over, he looked at what is on ground, and the perception of what people thought was on ground and what was on ground has a big gap. Yeah. But to drive all that is the vision of the team lead, which is the governor himself. And to a large extent, every fiber of the system is on good governance, inclusiveness, transparency, responsibility, all those things that will be the bedrock for any build-up. So far, you can also see the manifestation. Of course, we can say that this administration has been in government now for coming to 3 years. But you remember that almost 18 to 20 months out of that, it was COVID. Nobody could go out, nobody could do whatever. But even in that 3 years, you will have seen all the projects, all the things that His Excellency's administration has done. And without any reservation at all, we're not there yet. We still have quite a lot more to do. But when you compare where we started with and where His Excellency's strategy is at right now, I think the statistics, the figures that are coming up, and even the perception in the system shows that there is a focused and qualitative government in place. And most of the things that we have done, or that this administration has done, surpasses what most of the other administrations have done. Different time, different seasons, but given the space of 3 years, I think that we are more than say that it is satisfactory. But this is government, and government never stops and never ends.
SSG, when the government comes into power, you want to think that politics will be set aside, and of course, it will be time for governance. But you find out that there is no way a democratic government will come to office and will not continue the business of politicking and at the same time providing governance. How much of politicking in your administration has galvanized you to deliver quality governance?
Okay. This is a democratic dispensation, so you will expect that politicking will be part of the things around you. But politicking has done very little in determining what this administration has done. And that is what a focus or people-focused administration would do. The first and most important thing was His Excellency, knowing that it was a turbulent period for the transition, and after the transition there's still a lot of heightened political tension. His Excellency told his team, for which I'm also privileged to be a member of, that look, ladies and gentlemen, we're here for a job, not for the politics. Let us focus on our work and let our work speak for us. And so, contrary to what people were expecting, that, oh, once the mantle of leadership transmits to another level, then there is going to be a lot of reprisal, there's going to be a lot of going after, those things are noise that will just take your focus off what a government should be doing. And even in cabinet, people didn't agree totally initially. But when you then begin to see that he's consistent with it, you won't see too much of political noise. How many times has His Excellency come on air to come and condemn a rival, or has come to take an action that is like, oh, it is targeted at hitting this or hitting that? But we have projects that we're undertaking. We have projects that we're commissioning. The reason why this administration is here is not because you want to come and fight past administration or make yourself such a demigod for the incoming and whatever. It is because the people, the good people of Ogun State, decided that this is the shift, this is the focus. And His Excellency has retained that focus to say, there is an agreement between the good people of Ogun State and His Excellency. And he says, those understandings, I will do it to the best of my knowledge. And I think that until maybe recently, when you are now spending a little bit more time because of the primaries, because of that, which is taking a little bit more time. But even at that, the way the system runs now, which is what His Excellency has built, is almost like everybody takes responsibility for his actions. So even if the governor himself is not available, things are going on because you have reports that you have to turn in. Once there is a plan and there is a system that is automatically measuring your performance, it runs in a mode that the results will come out. And you can see all the projects you've done. Just tell me any part of our life that we don't have a project that is going on. If it is infrastructure, we have. I mean, he just won the Governor of the Year award by Vanguard. Yes. So these are things that I think, and I'm so glad that what everybody says, which we're guarding against, is that once you get into the last year of any administration, the level of politicking will heighten, and that no work is done. But contrary to that, we have a lot of experienced politicians also, and then you have a lot of technocrats. And so we have fused those things together to make sure that the processes that are required to keep whatever, yes, you have to do, His Excellency will spend more time at meetings these days, whatever, but we have sessions that we have created, and those times are sacrosanct. This is what we do, this is what we do. So I think politics has not taken any toll on us, at least so far. And if it were for me to predict, I don't think it's going to be, I will not be the kicker for any action. It's not going to be the reason why, whatever. That's politicking. But the other side of it is, what do the people want? That will always be. And what the way this administration has defined itself is to look at what people really want. I'll give you an example. When this administration came on board, there are housing projects that the previous administrations had done. that some were completed, some were in the process of being completed, but people were not buying. Nobody is buying. One of the head of service at that time came back and said, look, these things are too expensive. Can we reduce the price? So we reduced the price based on their recommendation, but people were still buying. So when this administration was going to do its own housing scheme, the first thing we did was say, who are we building these houses for? Let's get a feedback from them. So we got a consultant to talk to the people. What kind of housing do you want to? So we gave them they reviewed all the models, and they said, look, most people buying houses would like to buy a house that they will live in. They also feel that they will have a car. They want to have those things such that once they make this giant move and make commitment, you are there. It's not that you buy, So they gave us a spec, which is part of what is going on now. And we did the first one in Kinta. It was an experiment to see how much it is. The first phase of that thing was 150 units. Before we finished, as soon as the roof came on from part of it, people who had lined up to buy that thing were hitting like 400. Okay, so people came up and said, no. These are surrogates. People are buying in people, there are people from outside, money bags are coming to. What happens to the real target, which is one, civil servants and the class of civil servants. And then we said, okay, look, let's see who, tell them, look, we have so much in the demand. We would like to build more. So if you can pay your own in full or whatever. So we got about 400, just about 400 who had paid in full. And then we x-rayed all those 400 to see the class of people buying. 75% of those on the list were people that we targeted it for, which are civil servants. We're not saying people in that earning bracket outside of our system, within our system. And so we knew that, yes, this one we got it. And so right now, I think we've crossed over 1,200. And the one in Kobakwe was very interesting. We built the first 300, and then we have about maybe 700-800 demand. So right now, we feel that the model is working, and we now want to take it to the next level. Let's get private sector individual into this project and let them just do wonders with it. So if we are, the target for this administration is 2,000, and mind you, the 2,000 will be more than what 2,000 living units will be more than what any other administration had built, put together. So, once you go back to the people, which is focusing on people. So some of the houses, of course, I'm just talking about the low end. This is the one that is very impactful on almost the kind of people that the government will want to stay with and nurture. And so that's just one of the examples that I can
before we leave the housing sector, the housing units that have been completed, when are we going to see people occupy them, or the process is still on?
Yes. One of the, I think in another maybe a couple of days now, the first one, the Kinta one, Idiaba, is fully habited now because there are shells, so some people will still have to do some little finishing. That's okay. The one in Kovape, okay, they had a little bit issue about drainage, so we had to fix that. It's done now, and then the other thing is we didn't want to create a tension because you have so many people who have paid. Once you start allocating those things now, without anybody seeing the next phase coming, you dampen their spirits, and we didn't want anybody to be lobbying. So the next phase of it is starting. So when we then give this out, we can also say, look, yours is not ready, but look at your plot here, look at your plot here. And I think we're at that stage now where we will do that.
And are you going to assure the people of Ogun State that owning those structures will be devoid of, because that's the feeling in town. Primordially, people will always say, oh, when government builds houses, those houses go to politicians, they go to people in government, they don't go to those who were actually targeted in the first instance.
No, yes, I think we would like to get a feedback on that, seriously, because the process we have taken now, some of the review we did with the first one is that most of the people that were carrying into Kobape were leftovers from Kinta. And so we know that those ones were about 75% of them were, because by the time we came up with the list, some interest groups like civil servants say, look, we want our department to have this unit, the 3 units. Everybody wants us to allocate to this commission. So we said, okay, let's take out all the forms that we have, and then who are the people working there? So we actually put their departments there. We're not going to say, you take 5 units when you don't need 5 units. But it's an open stuff, just go and buy. But when we looked at the list, that's why we can say, because we said, okay, where do these people work? We're not going to then say, okay, yes, out of the 25 people who are not working, somebody comes from Federal Medical Center. It's still an indigene in Ogun State. But the fact that it's that range of earning brackets that we are at, we're okay. So I don't think this is going to happen, because once the list is out, people can go there and then journalists can go there and review it and come back. If we make any mistake, we're doing another set, we tweak it a little bit. And it's always better to have feedback from the marketplace. This is what you're doing wrong. Some people will say, well, what can I do? But if I look at all the people who have even been bold enough to approach the commissioner or whatever, from what we discussed, are all internal people. And the preference is there, really. So once the allocation is taking place, your engagement, because how did I come about the 75% statistics? Because we went through their forms and we listed their workplaces on that form. Okay, so at least that's the only review that we can do. So it's okay.
Mr. Talabi, provision of the dividends of democracy is the hallmark of any democratic government and the expectation of the people. But there's also the challenge of spreading across. One of the minuses, so to say, that's already been said about the last administration or previous administration, is that over-concentration of dividend of democracy in some parts. Mm-hmm. How far, so far, with this government when it comes to spreading the dividends?
And changing the narratives.
Yeah, changing the narratives.
I'm sure a lot of people have come on the stage to talk to you about changing the narratives. However, first thing, His Excellency says that I will not develop a portion of these states at the expense of the other people. So let me give you how the roads that we're doing became such a popular item in this film. And this is what it takes when you have a structured system that has a plan and has a path. Once you have a plan and you have created a path for it, how did we get into road construction? Just like we did in the housing. We called all the local governments. We said, look, go into your various local governments and give us 3 roads in priority of importance. So everybody from every local government submitted their 3 roads. The team that His Excellency put together also looked at the roads that might traverse many local government, or what we call the state priority roads. So we listed those ones out. So whether you put it on your list or it's not part of your list, these roads are, so nobody is going to say Shagamu to Abeokuta, interchange to Abeokuta is in my local government. It probably spans like maybe 2-3 local governments. So that is there. And then we now said, give us 3 roads in order of priority from your local government. So we went ahead and we did 1 road all through local government. Then we take a second one all through local government. Then we took the 3rd one. But there's still intervention if anything comes up that is so bad or whatever. At Digbe, for instance, which we have just commissioned now, the it's not considered as anything from any of the local government recommendations, because we want something that is more impactful on their road, and people did a little bit of rural road into that. So when you do something like that, you are first, you've taken the opinion of the beneficiaries of these roads into consideration. Not that I just feel, oh, this guy needs an Ankara, then you go and make Ankara for him. But maybe the guy likes Adire. So you ask him, what do you prefer, an Ankara or Adire? If he says Adire, then go and buy Adire for him. So that's how we did the first set of roads. We did the second set of roads. And if you look at the outcome now, yes, the governor also can lift his cap off when people say Mr. Infrastructure or Mr. Road or something like that. So that's part of the way of communication.
For those of us that grew up in Abeokuta, the Kenta Shomori Road, that also passes through the road that leads to Professor Wole Soyinka's house, has been something that we call horror. Passing through that road has been very, very, very traumatic. Now this administration came and that road has been half completed now. I live in Abantoko, and usually I drive through that road.
So you're enjoying the infrastructure.
Enjoying it.
Yes.
But some people also say, because I'm just thinking about when are we going to change the narratives for Ogun State? When is it going to end in Ogun State? In the minds of people of Ogun State, this is a state that has very rich history.
When you say when is it going to end, what is going to end?
Yeah, what is going to end is people are saying that they are not saying, Mr. Governor, come to inspect the road. And that's going back to what you said. At first you said your work will speak for you. But people have this impression that the governor has to be on that road almost every 2 weeks to inspect, so that it gives a feeling that I'm working. That's the point I'm making. When do you think that will change?
I think that the time is nigh. This is the time, and we just did one last week, the Adibe Road. So we are going to be seeing a lot. We have a lot of projects to commission. But yes, commissioning is good, but the impact is there. So you focus on the impact. As time is made available, but there's always demand for time. But you begin to see a lot of the activity, commission this, kick this off and all that. We have it in both housing, whatever. We have it in hospital, primary health care. We have schools. We have, we have 236. There's a PHC in every ward that has been affected or repaired or refurbished by His Excellency. That's 236 wards in the state, across the states. There's so much, whatever. But the commissioning will start as we make time. But what His Excellency has told us is that, look, there is time to celebrate, but let the work continue. So it's looking like we're working faster than the rate at which we're commissioning this project. I'm sure if we start commissioning 2 projects a week, we'll probably not finish for a lot of months.
Let me just add this. It's very close to what Bedu just asked. Beyond commissioning of projects, beyond surrounded with fantastic aides and officers like very other people like the SSG, the NG room and all that, is the peculiar people we have in Ogun State. And people are still saying, we want to speak with our governor. We want to ask questions. We want to appreciate him. That's the nature. That's our character, where he should be appreciated. And we want to actually offer our advice, even though they've been taking those advices to you. And we see him in other television stations, or maybe hear him on radio stations, but they could point to some television stations where they have seen the governor. Why are we not seeing our governor? Why is our governor not talking to us?
No, I think
it's an opportunity for us.
That's I think that's no, that's not on behalf of the people. That's on behalf of the people. Come on, that's a little bit below the belt, but it's okay. First and foremost, the public engagement of His Excellency was a little bit distorted because of the COVID era. And everybody wants to be sure that, and everybody takes COVID, preventing themselves from getting infected in different stages. But that is behind us now, and you begin to see whatever. Unfortunately, for media houses, and I know you haven't seen him done too many of this. It's not as if, look, I've been to 16 times channels or any other TV station, and then our own is not. But it's all in the works. But over time now, you begin to see a lot more. And in any case, this is also a campaign period. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of His Excellency on those things. The focus is not so much as whether I come on here or not. The majority of it is that what are we doing to make sure that our impact is continuing to be felt by the people. And I'm sure you will understand that.
What are the feedbacks that you are receiving from people about the mass bus transit innovation, the Wi-Fi enabled buses? A lot of people have actually said that Abeokuta, for instance, has a lot of taxis, and many residents of Abeokuta, you see, their job is driving from young men to old men, and that is not likely to make that idea a successful one. That people will not really, I know it's a pilot scheme that we are running for now, but again, are you getting feedbacks, to actually enlarge it and then take it to other parts of the state?
Okay, there is nothing that this administration would do without a basis. There is a university in the UK and a group of investors. They support administrations to build what they call mega cities. And they've chosen like maybe 5 in the world. And Ogun State happens to be one of the mega cities. One of the issues on the mega city is that you must have a mass transit, whether it's mass railway and all that. So there was a big study funded into, I think it's more than a very expensive study on the mega city. And these are part of the things that are coming out to say, look, you need to have this, you need to have this. There's always a misconception about mode of transport when it is not available. When we didn't have rail, people didn't think that rail can be efficiently used. But now, if you see the role that this rail from Lagos to Abeokuta and route Ibadan is impacting, it's phenomenal. Most of the people who, and it's having there is a fallover effect. It's having a big effect on the tourism in the States. People now come in there, and I'm very happy to say anytime that most weekends you don't even have enough rooms in the hotels in Ogun State, because almost all if it is Rotary, when they're doing something international, because there is a mass transportation that can bring all their delegates straight into Ogun State, straight into Abeokuta, and then all the hotels are filled. I understand that some of the hotels now have started doing shuttle from the rail station, and I've seen people just come to spend weekend in Ogun just because it's easy. There will be other modes of transportation, but when you can move mass people into and out to something, it changes the narrative. The feedback we've had so far from the mass transit is very encouraging, and we're thinking of improving it. It's also an acculturation, because we want to get people to get used to the culture of doing this. If we don't have that, there are implications for not having such kind of transportation available. One is cost. The second one is security. You've seen some of our neighboring states saying, look, maybe I don't want this type of Okada here anymore. Maybe I don't want this. It is because there is a reliable alternative for commuters to use. So once those things get into the fabric of our whatever, once they've done in the past, part of the study shows that because we're not so well spread out 20 years ago, some of those things failed. But it's a different narrative now. If you put a bus now with almost 600, 800 housing units in Kobakwe, a shuttle bus there will always be full, because then it generates another cluster of employment around there. So a lot of the follow-over. The most important thing is access. Once there's access to that place, either that the road is good or there is access to transportation and it doesn't kill you. You don't have to have a car. You don't have to do. How many people will own a car anyway? So that mass transit, and there is a transportation master plan that we did, and these are lines from that transport master plan to say this is where this is going to be. So we already know if anybody is going to do anything now over the next 10, 15 years, whether you want to do a new rail line, you already know where the rail line will be. Whether it's going to be a new bus route, you already know where the bus route will be. We're doing a seaport. We've already planned how rail will go to the seaport and connect major cities. The federal government is doing a rail project. We're telling them, look, as we did the Ekpe Ijebu-Ode road, the state government has created clusters, automotive park, entertainment park. These are large plans. Some of them, we've also done the study looking at the population growth in those areas. We need to spread out. And so those clusters will also, we will have planned the transportation capacity of those things. We will have planned the gas feed for that place. We will have planned the electricity for that. So that master plan is, we're putting building blocks together. And I think that for the transportation, the feedback we're getting is good. We get a lot of opinion on social media, and we also have some criticism on social media as well. Yes. But we're addressing them as they come back. We have somebody who monitors these things. Our media team monitors, and then they address those comments.
Before we leave transportation, SSG, I mean, this addition has to be commended for the cargo airport too in Ileshan, which is quite massive. Let's go back to the issue of Okada. Lagos State government has banned that business in 6 local governments, and the fear is that the spillover effect will be mostly felt by Ogun State. Now, if you look at the characteristics of those that do this business, most of them are foreigners, Chadians, Nigerians, and all that. And we also read that Lagos State government had to take that decision because of the crime rate that comes along with that.
Along with it.
Now, the fear is that they will spill to Ogun State, they will come to Ogun State. Are we prepared?
Yes, I think we're prepared. And part of the preparation is to look at our own security infrastructure. You see, there are some decisions that certain states can take because predominantly all their cities are joined together and it's an urban environment. In our own case, it's not like that. You still have a lot of villages linked by road, and they are not big enough to be an urban where you do metro rail. I mean, so we need to be very specific about what kind of measures we will take. But by and large, everything around security is continually being reviewed to make sure that we don't get this. And so far, Ogun State is considered as the safest state to live in because we like a bird's eye, we're watching everything. And some of the things we've done, others have come to copy. It's very ingenious how we manage these things. The teams that are involved are looking at what are the implications of this, and we might look at what is the best measure. But we need to subject it to scrutiny and not just be reacting to what somebody has said and then you just do your own and then you begin to think about, is it good, is it not good? We need to look at the whatever. What we are doing now is that we are automating most of the transportation system, especially operators in that market, so that at least we can trace you. If you do something, we can say this is the guy who owns this much, and we believe that that's going to help. So all the Okada riders are being registered. There's a database. We know exactly how many you have here and all that. And then we're also strengthening the collaboration with the unions to make sure that they be the first line of preventing those who are not supposed to be in that. And then they take some responsibility as well. If we then see anything done that is not in the line of what has been agreed as this infrastructure to use, then that union has to be responsible for it. The issue here for me is who's taking responsibility. But when you leave it to A or leave it to B and all that, you're not going to get anything, no matter how lofty your ideas are or your policies are. If you don't have somebody to own and take responsibility for those actions, you're not going to get anything.
All right, you must agree with me that in recent time, in spite of the fact that we can say security-wise, the state is relatively safe, but you agree with me that one area where we have challenges from the youth, so to say, court war, and people are getting worried. What's the kind of interface that is going on between the government and security agencies? To actually, recently we had in Ibadan shootout between police and some cause, killings here and there, and people are asking, when did the Ogun State become this? That is the only challenge. To be sincere, we are sleeping with our two eyes closed, no armed robbery, blah, 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 and of course the security agencies are trying their best with the government. But this constant reoccurrence of court war, what is the government doing about it?
You know, as any administration, you are going to have issues that are going to be on the front burner every time. For us, security has never left the front burner, and that is why all the steps we're doing, when His Excellency assumed office 3 years ago, 2 policemen could not even talk to each other because they have no walkie-talkie communication and all that. So we invested in that. Of course, within the first 100 days, they had 100 cars, and then subsequently we did that, and we've set up so many. The last of it was the OP Mesa, because there are some operations that you need to use a multi-agency approach to it. And I can't tell you some details online because these are also security issues, but I can tell you the outcome of those steps, because that's it. Right now, one of the reasons why you haven't seen any heightened rates in even kidnapping and all that in this state is because we have a system that is working. About a year ago, you could see that almost every day there's some whatever. But quietly, consistently, and surely, things were being dealt with. And we got support from the federal government. The federal government gave us a helicopter. So once there is a kidnapping at that time, you take the helicopter to that area, they go into the bush anyway. But because there's a hovercraft on top of you, people then, it slows them down. And then we created an ingenious system where you have even time one tappers come into that security network, the villagers and all that. And the time one tapper will tell us, yes, they are camping, because it's the man that goes on top of the tree to see that. For cultism, it's such a peculiar issue for not only Ogun State really, but amongst the youth. And we now see that before, in our own days, or when I was younger, cultism is something that you see from the tertiary institutions and above. But now it has come back. And the worst part of it is that it's no longer left to institutions anymore. You also have cultism by the roadside carpenter, the roadside mechanic, also into cult, and it's a thing. Before, these are people that are used as tools to foment pressure, politics, and all that. But with his administration's inclusiveness, the need for all that is reducing, and then you can see a reduction in that. But in recent times, in the last 5, 6, in the last 2-3 months, you've seen very, very disturbing figures coming out of cultism. And there is a special unit that His Excellency had set up now that's going to go solely after those areas. Kidnappers, cultists, and that hoodlum banditry. Those are the things. First, you need to have an enabling law. Most of the laws that we had in Ogun State that can take care of those things just give like maybe 3-6 months and they're out. But now we have the appropriate law, anti-kidnapping law, everything is already in place. So when you then have security systems or security operatives, well, at least they have a framework of how long you can delay. Sometimes just taking those guys out of circulation for a while might create that impression. But when you then have a system where somebody that is known to be, there's one of the mechanisms, one of the recent there's a notorious killer that was paraded on the television about a week ago. They've been looking for that guy for 6 months, but we have a way of tracking them now, and that's support from federal government and all that. With the tracking, with the ability to, to really follow these guys, a lot of those things are coming up, and we're taking them. So whether you are a kidnapper now, we can almost react quickly. Now we've launched back Operation Mesa, which is a joint between police, SSS, Army, Civil Defense, and all that, and they're going after those ones. So, and we are taking them on, and we're arresting quite a lot of them. Funny enough, we also help arrest criminals here that somebody's been sought from other states. So we had to create, at a point in time, we noticed that almost all the kidnapping arrangements, the perpetrators coming from a neighboring state, do the stuff, take, and then go back there. So when we track them into another state. So that's why the collaboration between us and Oyo State was put in place. We don't do the Oyo security, whatever. We brought all the security networks, so they are talking to each other. And that way, at least we made sure that what is coming here is reduced. So you won't see too many of those things now. But what happens is that you feel that you're working. If you don't keep your eye on it, and then things will deteriorate, and then these guys will start filtering back into. We're peculiar because we have the largest forest reserves, and these guys do their nefarious acts in the forest reserve. So we then have a team to do all that. So quite a lot of
one of the well-known safety valves over time is in any society is sports. That has been used to actually quell or reduce crime. Mike Tyson became world champion at 21. He was actually taken away from the slums.
Yes.
I don't know if we must be looking at that too, using sports to reduce crime. And we have a very rich history of sports. 5 stadia, 4 or 5. Ogun State has hosted WAFU Nations Cup. We hosted the African Women Championship in the past. We hosted a few international events and stuff like that. But we're not seeing that anymore. Those tournaments are not coming back because most of our sports facilities are not really looking good. The MK Abela Stadium is in bad shape as we speak.
No.
The pitch.
The pitch.
Okay.
Yes, because we just do a general.
Gateway stops from playing their matches. They want to storm us.
Yes. No, first and foremost, we don't have too many private investors coming in to help sports. But when this administration took over, one of the first places, if you've been to that Ijebu Day, the roofs were out. We had to just do everything there, and that for me is that's why my reaction was no. We're taking these things on. There's no, in fact, the MKO Stadium, we just painted it.
Yes.
To do a new facelift, change all this, change all that. Look at the, I've seen that some of the things are deteriorating again. Continuous management. Aside from that, promoting sports is what we do. But sports is a contact game. It's an outdoor sport. I think we're going to be seeing more. Where I don't want us to be too quick in judging whether we're not doing it or not, because everybody is still just, people couldn't even go to Hajj for 2 years.
Yes.
So, but now Hajj is okay. But even with Hajj now, the government is, Saudi is saying this is the maximum number of people who can come to Hajj this year. So people they're opening up, but it's not too. It's the same thing in those days. You don't want to expose these people to. We haven't seen too many of these things, but all everybody's saying is caution, caution, caution. But now that it's open, I mean, we're talking to each other now. In those days, everybody would have had to be putting masks everywhere.
Yes. Yes, I begin to wrap. As we begin to wrap up SSG, the local government, how vibrant are they in Ogun State? At the third tier of government, there are concerns about them all over Nigeria, and of course, it's enough time for them to have settled down since the election. How will you rate them? How far have they gone in contributing to the Ishaya project in Ogun State?
Of course, the direction for the local government is autonomy, so that they can do a lot of things by themselves and for themselves. But what this administration has done is that every quarter, there is each of the local government submits what they would like to do, because these are the guys who are in touch with the community, native, real, raw. And then an appropriation is made to all the local governments to then go and execute projects that are germane. These projects are not the project that the state government, because the magnitude is small, but the impact is large. And there's a compendium of all that. The last time that we moved around, we listed all the projects, whether it's local government, whether it's federal government, whether it's local government or the state government. And in some cases, we had like maybe 80 projects, 30 projects, a little bit of market here and all that. But I think they are doing very well. But like I would say, all of us can do more. The state government can do more, the local government can do more. Now they have a new set of administrators in those places, and we're seeing some vibrancy, even the choice of those administrators to make sure that the right people take on those responsibilities. We're beginning to see a big traction from that side.
Before we close this,
let me ask this very quickly. Yes, we've been working with the government. We know who the SSG is. We know, but people will still ask us, and of course, I'm asking on their behalf. Who is Tokunbo Talabi? Where was he fished out from?
And they always say he has a tough look.
Yes.
Behind that tough look.
I hope that will reduce it. Well, first and foremost, I'm an indigene of the states. I'm from Ijebu in Ijebu North Local Government, Ward 7. All my life, I have been in the private sector. I graduated from University of Ife. I have a second degree in finance from University of Lagos as an MBA. I worked in a bank. I was one of the pioneer staff of Guarantee Trust Bank until I left in 1989. And since then, I've been in private business, and I've done quite a few. I've been chairman of quite a few boards and all that. At a certain point in my life, I took the decision that I want to retire early from all my engagements. And so about 5 years ago, I actually gave all my enterprises, all my companies to people to manage. And I was just, I thought I was retiring until His Excellency came calling. And I felt that in terms of business, I think that God has helped me to make a mark. But in terms of impacting people, you can think that you are generous because you are doing things, but when you are in a social impact environment, it's a different game. For instance, before I came here, maybe all my companies together have a staff strength of maybe 1,500 to 2,000. However, in one day, this administration took on 1,650 teachers. Employment. No private sector can do that. And that's what you call impact. Dangote can't do that in one day. It's not possible. But the government did it and did it again. We'll teach 400, 500. It's a different feel here, and I'm grateful to God for the hard face. Well,
but not as hard as Mr. Stallone.
For the hard face, I don't think I'm rambling. For the hard face, I think there's sincerity of heart that follows it. And when people get closer, they will see that we're all wired differently.
Yes.
My own is that I just want us to do things properly. I'm a process person. I put processes, I put infrastructure in place. Once that is done, I think I'm good.
Finally, SSG, yes, I think we just have to also commend this administration in certain areas, infrastructurally, agriculturally, educationally.
Fantastic.
Then healthily, if there's anything like that. in the area of health sector, I think this government has really done very well, because we usually have the Commissioner for Health, and she's been a very great woman, you know. But how has it been balancing revenue versus expenditure, civil service?
I think you did a little bit of injustice to that by asking when the time is up. So revenue is what you use to do all these things.
Yes.
And there's a different shift on revenue. The biggest asset we have in Ogun State, our own oil, is land. And the land sector has been a big headache in terms of how the structure is. People are resisting certain things. But for instance, now we're automating all the process, and you will have heard about all arms, where you can, almost like an open market, where any new project we're doing, so it's like in two phases. All the new projects we're doing is going to come off on all arms. All the projects that we've had, so that every inch of the state will be ported on all arms. So if you want to buy land, you know, we have seen cases where quite a few things don't move when it comes to land. But once those processes are automated, you know, the all arms, whatever, when we opened the website, and what I think it was the Muhammadu Buhari estates that we're trying to see if they are off-takers of one of the schemes, within a week, 5,000 people went on all arms, signifying that they want to buy land. So that level of uptake or buy-in is very, very encouraging. So you can envision a situation where people can do their land businesses without having to go into offices, beg this person to come and do this. Once those toll gates are taken off, yes, but people will resist those toll gates. And we're doing a complete overhaul of the lands, whatever. Even some of those that we find culpable, the law is taking its course with them. And that area, there is no tolerance. And we are beginning to see an increase in our revenue. And that's what gives any administration confidence to say, look, don't worry, I'm going to do that road for you because I know something is coming. So another time, another place.
So SSD, in 30 seconds, your passing shot to the people of Ogun State. 30th anniversary of your government.
Well, I want to say to everybody in Ogun State to say congratulations, that we've had a period of 3 years where violence, interethnic rivalry, all things are down and things are looking up. Our routes are getting better. We won't be able to touch all of you right immediate, but at least you have confidence that there are people coming in. The only thing I would like to leave with you is, please give us feedback. The thing that this administration needs the most is feedback, objective feedbacks. Sometimes some people will just come and talk about a particular road, and we find that it's a very small road and links two strategic places together as a bypass. Those are the things. So if I'm going to say anything, trust your government and come up. Not sensationalizing things, you know. I've seen people give photographs of where you have kidnappers, and then when we looked and we sent it everywhere, we found that the photograph was taken somewhere in Kenya, and somebody said that is in Ogiri. You know, we should do, but don't let that, people will do that, but the real people should please come forward and tell us how you feel, so that when those who are sitting down looking at what to do next, we say, oh, we have a lot of requests from this part. What do we do there? What do we do there? It makes your administration close to you and close to your heart. And that way, you feel good with it, we feel also accomplished.
I want to wish the administration more success as you continue to provide succor to the people.
And success at the polls.
And success at the polls. It's important.
Big issue. And I think that somehow I'd like to thank the people of Ogun State for really supporting. When you go out and you see the reaction, spontaneous reaction, especially from women, about what you are doing well. You know, women are very, very full of emotions, and they express it both ways. With anger, when
they are angry, the nation is angry.
In fact, yes. But when they're happy also, and when you go out and then you see those feedback, it gives you encouragement to say, let's do more, let's do more. So thank you, women.
Thank you very much for having us our guest, the SSG to Ogun State government, Mr. Tokunbo Talabi, and of course you've heard all that you said. Well, we'll have to allow him go now, and of course we'll still continue with the program. Once again, thank you very much for coming to the program.
Thank you very much for having me, Hakeem, and also Biodun. It's my pleasure to be here. And anytime you need more, I'm sure all the team in the administration will be here to talk to our people.
When we come back, we'll continue with the program.